Dear friends, good morning on Monday the 8th of February. In the account of the Passover in the book of Exodus, amongst all the instructions as to how the Israelites are to remember the Passover, there are a couple which caught my eye. First, from Exodus chapter 12. When your children ask you, "What does this ceremony mean to you?" then tell them, "It is the Passover sacrifice to the Lord, who passed over the houses of the Israelites in Egypt and spared our houses when he struck down the Egyptians." And in chapter 13, in days to come, when your son asks you, "What does this mean?" say to him, "With a mighty hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery." The annual celebration of the Passover is meant to provoke questions from the children, which parents are to use as an opportunity to retell the story of Israel's rescue from slavery in Egypt. And this still happens in Jewish households today. The annual Passover festival includes 4 questions which the youngest child asks at the Passover meal. Why on this night do we eat unleavened bread? Why on this night do we eat bitter herbs? Why on this night do we dip the bitter herbs twice? And why on this night do we all recline at table? This is a great model of how to tell the story of our salvation, not just to our children, but to all those who live around us. The way that we live our lives and the way in which we practice our faith will provoke questions from those around us, which we need to be ready to answer. So it's so good if Christian families can have routines of thanking God for our food before meals, reading a Bible story to children before bed, praying with them, and just the routine of going to church on a Sunday when we're able to, receiving communion as a family, or at the moment, watching the service and Sunday Club online, are all important routines which will provoke questions about our faith from our children, which we need to be ready to answer. Often their questions are incredibly penetrating. At one stage, one of my boys would only allow us to read stories to him from the book of Judges, and that's because they were full of fighting and excitement. That raised a lot of difficult questions, such as, why did Samson catch 300 foxes, tie them in pairs by their tails, attach flaming torches to each of the pairs, and then set them loose in the Philistine cornfields? Well, I'm still puzzling that one out. But it's not just families that can learn from this method of instruction. The way that we live our lives will inevitably raise questions in other people's minds. And sometimes, in the right setting, they may well ask us why we behave in the way that we do. What are all those vulnerable people doing outside St. Matthew's on Saturdays? What are the churches in Cheltenham doing to help people during the pandemic? You're a Christian. Why is God allowing all this suffering at the moment? I've got a friend who's really struggling. Can your church help them? And what are you doing on a Sunday now that you can't go to church? Well, those are all questions that I've heard people ask over the last few months, and we need to be ready to answer those questions. They are some of the greatest opportunities that we have to tell the story of our salvation. So why don't you pray for some opportunities like that this week? God bless you today.